Excuse me. Another thing we need to discuss is the fact that SBPD and BPD, Howard Center, and all their partners at Safe Harbor, Community Health Centers of Burlington, COT, STEPS, all of their contractors, UVM, whatever, are blatantly obstructing their own ongoing criminal investigation. That's a case number. Now it's backwards, so I got to read it. It's 20SB, that probably means South Burlington, 006602. Officer Mike Goslin, and of course I recorded that interview, and I recorded Economic Services sending me to the police. Not only did I record that, the caseworker actually wrote their names down on a sticky note, on one of those little notes that has the sticky on the awards letter that I had just received in July of 2020 for the police. That's on their own video. And I'm sure that when I walked into the building at SBPD, that dispatcher's going to be honest and acknowledge that, yes, there was a note there. Wasn't my handwriting. With their names on it. And how the hell would I know their names at Economic Services? So they can't say they didn't know that I was sent there by a state agency to report crimes, which Mike Goslin assured me were committed, probably by Safe Harbor, because everything shut down within a week of me getting into town because of COVID. The only place I went where I shared my birth date and social security number was Economic Services itself and Safe Harbor. And that was so they said they could bill their grant. And now we know it was so they could go online, pretend to be me, and get Vermont Medicaid in my name and forge my signature. Now, based on all the recordings that I made over the years, what the police and their contractors have decided to do so to justify their bogus criminal investigation is they're claiming that I wasn't sent there. They're omitting the fact that I was sent there by a Vermont agency, a state government agency, to report a crime against the state of Vermont. They're claiming that I went in there on my own and just made a false criminal allegations against Marcus, though I didn't really know who did it. Yes, Marcus was one of the contacts at Safe Harbor, but I didn't know that he himself did it. I don't know who did it. And Paul Dragon is since he's at CVOEO and he's a chief administrator at Human Services Agency, that means from what I read about him, he's tied to, he was the director of homeless services or something for the state of Vermont, or economic services, or whoever, and got the funding to open Safe Harbor. He was some sort of director at Economic Services Division. So he's got all his bases covered and gets to investigate himself as a chief administrator at Vermont Human Services Agency. Now, the reason why they're lying and saying that I just went in there on my own and that I wasn't sent by a government agency is, number one, because that gives me whistleblower protection. I'm mandated by law to report that stuff. And I didn't just go to the police first. I went to Economic Services first to talk to those ladies who told me I wasn't even qualified to apply for Vermont Medicaid because I already had New York Medicaid, even though that was illegally gotten as well. So I went in there and reminded them of that and showed them the awards letter, and they're like, how did you end up with being covered by Vermont Medicaid? And I said, when I called Green Mountain Care, they said somebody went online, pretended to be me, and got Vermont Medicaid in my name. And I said, it wasn't me. She said, that's fraud. You have to go to the police. Well, it's also identity theft and perjury. But under Miranda v. Arizona, when a person just arbitrarily decides to walk into the police department and report a crime, the police get to investigate them too. They've waived their Miranda rights. That's why they're deliberately omitting the fact that Vermont sent me in there, which makes me an unpaid agent of the executive branch, and it's not voluntary. It's mandated. I have to, when somebody commits fraud in my name, I have to cooperate with it. So those bozos from Ranger Preston and whoever that social worker was, probably with Howard Center or Safe Harbor or whoever, McAfee and all these snitch jacketing agents that are pretending to work for Sarah George, and Ranger Preston and his friend Janelle pretended that they were out there on behalf of the mayor, as did this group that was out there today telling me that I'm no trespass for building a structure. Excuse me, there's 2 structures at that preschool. And I think that's perfectly fine because they already know that's an open park policy, that there are signs that saying you can utilize this park however you want. And they know damn well they forced me into that park by denying me victim services. All of them, the South Burlington PD, BPD, and all of their contractors. And they know that I'm assisting an ongoing criminal investigation into this, which makes me a cop, whether they want to respect my agency with Chad Cronin or not. And that's what all these snitch jacketing agents, that's part of their job. They're out there committing the crimes, and then they lie and say, Heather threatened me, she lied on me. It's all like a blitzkrieg of Brady violations. However, they've already violated that. They filed that restraining order, the violations by Autumn and whoever sent her parents, and all the people who set them up to do that has already been violated multiple times between the 22nd when it was signed by the judge and the 5th when it was served to me. Their dealer that they sent to the platform, when I looked at my posts, it said 5 days ago, when they sent that dealer to the platform to push drugs to me to try to kill me with fentanyl, he works with Autumn. So she contacted me through a third party. Did she arrange it herself? I don't know. But they're all pretty well connected and all seem to know what the other one's doing. When her and Michael showed up there and told that GMT driver to get in my face, though he wasn't aggressive about it, he was just, being courteous and kind of letting me know, that she violated it right then because she shouldn't have been at that platform. They're lying and saying, oh, it's just a coincidence. Ain't that many coincidences in the world, especially when she's on video asking me for my phone number. And her mammy's threatening me in a text, somehow got my phone number. Autumn told me that she got a new phone and she lost my phone number. So how did her mother get my phone number, or her father, whoever the hell it was? And quoted all my social media posts in a matter of seconds. So I'm all too happy to help Sarah George bust these people, and if they suspect that the Judge Shafritz is involved in this, we need to figure out what kind of accommodations to set up to make sure I'm safe, whether Sarah George's victims advocates want to go in that courtroom with me and signal to them, fuck around and find out, and let me get a confession out of the judge, because I'm going to choose my words very carefully. I'm going to, first of all, after she's going to let Autumn state her piece, and then I'll say, first of all, they've ran a sham on your court. Autumn and her friends have already inadvertently admitted to working on behalf of Burlington police, the Weinbergers, the Goldwaters. They're affiliated with a whole lot of people that have bragged about being police and working for Homeland Security and Epstein's partners in crime. Cuomo, Byron Brown, Tish James, and then to have a new crew come in and lie and impersonate progressive law enforcement. Oh, we work for Sarah George and Mulvaney Stanek and Bernie Sanders. And then they say, oh, yeah, Bill Kinnear's following me too. And when I say he's police, oh, no, he's not. He's just a moron. So they're there to try to convince me that they're there to run cover for the other idiots that I got to admit were police. And I can print up, but one thing I do not have time to do is prepare for that court date and survive these sub-zero temps. Make sure I have heat, make sure I have water, make sure I have food, make sure I have my everything I need to do for my cancer treatment. It's that right there is a full-time job. I got time to put together all the evidence, which we're talking 13 years worth of overwhelming evidence. Good grief. If I printed it up, it'd be 10 boxes, 10 Xerox boxes. I can't carry 10 boxes. I couldn't afford to print all the evidence up. So me and Sarah George's victims advocates got to get together and figure out, okay, you need me to get this judge on the record acting like Judge Hoare? Fine. But I really don't think we need to do all that. I think that since once I report in writing to them in the email that Autumn ran a fraud on the court and how she ran a fraud on the court and who she works for, I believe they're mandated to reach out to that judge and let the judge know that she issued a bad order based on bad evidence, because that judge is, she's a member of the bar. That she can lose her license. And that judge has a right to hold Autumn in contempt and file charges against everybody involved. And if that judge doesn't do that, guess what? She's part of Judge Hoare's little corrupt ring. So that's how you get them to tell on herself. Does the judge follow proper protocols when she's presented with evidence that Autumn ran a sham on her court, that Autumn is police, and is also, she's corrupt establishment police, snitch-jacketing agent, pretending to work for Sarah George and Bernie Sanders and Mulvaney Stanek with a whole group of people. So that when they do all these corrupt things, like part of the reason why they do that is so when she goes and pulls this shit and threatens me and gaslights me and files a bogus restraining order, I blame Sarah George. And that's what they want me to do. They want me to start making accusations against Sarah George and Bernie Sanders and Mulvaney Stanek. So then that gives them probable cause to treat you like Maduro. And another good example of fake progressives, Joe Biden called himself a progressive. Chad Cronin said he was a democratic socialist. He's claiming he's a progressive. Look what they're doing with this crap in Minnesota with the fraud schemes around the Somalia immigrants. They're pinning that on Ilhan Omar. Oh, they're pinning it on Tim Walz too, but the Democrats know it's ultimately going to also, they know by blowing this up, it makes Ilhan Omar look corrupt too. So, right now, the progressives have all the cards. It's time to call the bluff of the Epstein uniparty and go public before they just kill y'all. As far as them, that I also specifically need help with dealing with that municipal prosecutor who's trying to no trespass me out of a damn public park for putting up a structure when the school has two. So he's openly obstructing this investigation. Call it tampering, call it obstruction, call it capital murder, call it whatever. But that motherfucker know I've been out there 4 years. So does Ranger Preston, and so does everybody else involved. And they didn't pull this malicious prosecution crap, Brady crap, The fact that the school has 2 structures out there is proof that they're being selective and malicious in violating Brady. Oh, well, that's a school. They're helping kids. Well, so am I. What's more, the fact that all these boneheads released, and I think another reason why they're trying to close down that camp and no trespass me out of that park, they don't want me out there with those raccoons helping them. And they're probably going to try to kill them all because they're worried about a bunch of virologists from the Pentagon, bioweapons people, coming down here and testing them, because whatever they injected the raccoons with, there's going to be a heavy saturation of that illness, not only here in Burlington, but probably the state of Vermont, New Hampshire, upstate New York, this whole region, and in Canada.